But this inflation, it's inflation that's killing. It's inflation that got him elected, and it's inflation that's going to cause a landslide for the Democrats in the midterm.
If you think this is a video about salacious stories regarding Scott Jennings,
Scott Jennings swings both ways. Not that I care. Who gives a shit? But he's lied about this since 2009, and there are at least 100 photos of him at Fire Island bars from back in the day.
and wondering why recently some conservative men have been outed for wearing prosthetic boobs, or why Grindr seems to crash whenever a GOP convention is in town, this most certainly is not.
Of course he does this. I mean, we don't know that for fact, but of course he does, because that's what MAGA does. They sit there and they say, we're family values. We only want traditional marriage. And then they're on Grindr crashing the site.
It's a video about what's causing prices to rise and how that story is being told to you. Because right now, there's a pattern you've probably seen. Over the past couple of years, a number of political voices have been making very confident claims about inflation.
You know, the rate of inflation is normalized to some degree, but it still feels like the cost of living in the United States.
When he got into office.
But the rate of inflation is normal.
And when you slow down and actually look at the numbers, a lot of those claims don't line up. So before we get into all of that noise, let's ground this into something very simple. At the time of the last election, inflation was around 2.7%. Today, it's closer to 3.3%. So when you hear people say things like inflation is lower than it was before, that's not at all accurate based on the data.
Well, look, the rate of inflation is far lower than it was under Joe Biden.
Right.
Scott, on that front, just to test it, if they are going to say the Biden White House is the reason we have the state of this and we're trying to get out of it, which is something we actually hear a lot from like J.D. Vance and others. I mean, but Trump has been in office for this long, and inflation is higher today than it was the day he took office.
Well, the rate of inflation is normal, and the rate of inflation has come down. And the rate of inflation under Trump is not higher than Joe Biden's rate of inflation. I'm sorry, you keep saying
on the
that,
day
but
he,
it's not true.
on the day
That's
he
not
took
what I
office.
said. I said it's higher than the day Trump took office.
Which is true. It's 2.75% the day he took office, 3.3%.
So you all are arguing that we should have rapid deflation?
But that's only part of the story. The second piece is context, because inflation during the previous administration didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened during a global post-pandemic recovery. At one point, global inflation was around 9%, and compared to many other countries, the United States actually brought inflation down faster. That doesn't mean everything was handled perfectly, but it does mean the full picture is more complicated than #but Biden.
Some other dude did it. Saudi. That's a political excuse. I tried it when I worked for Bill Clinton. We got wiped out in the midterm. Some other dude did it. Oh, blame Joe Biden.
It's not some other dude.
That
it is the literal other party.
That dog don't hunt, man. You could. I hope you do. I hope everybody goes out there and blames Joe Biden, and you're going to see a Democrat.
Well, it's not.
Why do these simplified messages keep showing up? Well, it's because inflation for most people is an abstract concept. People know prices are higher, but they don't always know what drives inflation, what influences it, and what policy decisions actually connect to it. And when something is abstract, it's easier to reshape the narrative. So let's break this down in plain terms. There are two major contributors to inflation that show up again and again, according to most financial courses. First, supply chain disruptions. When goods and materials are harder to get, prices go up. That can be because of a pandemic, tariffs, or even a war. If supply gets tighter and demand stays the same, prices rise. Second, this is one that people don't really pay attention to and or know about. Too much money in the system. When more money is circulating, more people can buy goods. If demand rises faster than supply can keep up with it, prices increase. So that can happen through a lot of things. That can happen through things like large-scale stimulus programs like PPP grants, or tax policies that increase spending power like the Big Beautiful Bill. The top earners in this country right now have ridiculous spending power that the rest of us aren't enjoying. Now, once inflation starts rising, the Federal Reserve steps in. What's their main tool? Interest rates. When inflation is high, the Fed tends to raise rates to do the following things: make borrowing more expensive, slow down spending, and reduce demand. When inflation is low, the Fed does the opposite. Now, there are many in the administration that understand these concepts, like Scott Bessent and JD Vance. JD Vance came from a venture capital firm with Peter Thiel, so he knows all of this. The only person that doesn't seem to understand these concepts is the president, and the fact that he's his own reason for the rates not coming down. Oh, snap. The reason we know he doesn't understand these concepts is because he keeps trying to replace the Fed chair for not lowering interest rates. So, whenever you hear a conversation about mortgage rates being high, expensive credit cards, and tighter lending, that's not random. That's the Federal Reserve responding to inflation. And this is where everything connects if you understand these concepts. This is why rates are high. This is why borrowing is expensive. And this is why policies actually matter. So the real issue isn't inflation. It's whether people are getting an accurate explanation of it. Because if the explanation is too simplified, or if key context is left out, then you don't just get bad messaging, you get bad expectations. And when expectations don't meet reality, people feel it. They feel it in their bills. They feel it in their loans. So the real question isn't who do we blame for the inflation? The real question is, do you actually understand what's driving it, or are you being sold a simplified version of the story? If you want more breakdowns like this, where we step outside of the political silo and focus on how things actually work, then stick with me here at the Independent Mail. Because when it comes to the economy, understanding the system matters more than repeating talking points. Until next time, peace and stay informed.